that the other day, and I thought that I had remembered. She's asking if March 31st was in Holy Week in 1925. And I thought and we could do a quick search on that if somebody wants to do that, but I thought I remembered that Rudolf Steiner's death day was actually on Holy Monday, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, I know it was at least a week, maybe it was 2 weeks before the Holy Week in 1925. But that's, yeah, it's always, I love to do that too. I really like to look back and then see where we are and then try to decide, okay, what are we going to create for the future? That's, I really feel, part of our job. So I'm going to, now that you're all here, you all know what classroom you're in. You can all see each other a little bit here. Welcome, friends. This midpoint of the Holy Week. So yeah, we're on this eightfold path to Easter 2021. And if you're just tuning in, we have been exploring the connections between the rhythms of the Foundation Stone meditation, the experiences of the life of Christ during Holy Week, and the Rudolf Steiner's weekday exercises. So I'll ask everyone to please mute themselves, and I'm going to just get started right away and ask Jeffrey to give us this reading of the Wednesday rhythm.
Spirit recalling. Your own eye comes into being in the eye of God. Spirit sensing. Unite your own eye with the eye of the world. Spirit beholding. Bestow on your own eye for free and active willing.
Thank you. Yeah. The Wednesday rhythm. And we know that Wednesday is the Mercury day. That's why we have this Mercury symbol up. I can't seem to change my page here. Maybe I can get rid of this. Oh, the technical joys. Yes. So when we work with these weekday exercises, we get to know that there are all kinds of attributes. I've put a little chart down on the bottom here. It's always kind of cool to think about. I love thinking about, well, what's the color? Yellow, right? You know, it's attributed to the planet Mercury, but the archangel is Raphael, which is interesting. And Raphael's color is also yellow, and the tone of D. So we can sing things and think about this and, you know, eat some cereal and think about our time when we were between 7 and 14. You know, maybe have a cup of chamomile tea today. And, you know, get into this idea of, you know, what is Mercury? What is called for? You know, the quicksilver and you know, what does this messenger of the gods have to bring us? What message do we need to hear? So for Wednesday, Steiner talks about right standpoint, the ordering of life. So this can help us find our right livelihood. And for me, the catchphrase for Mercury Day is haste makes waste. Yeah, I'm trying to learn that one. And we're going to see too in the Easter story how when we're restless, you know, there's consequences. So, you know, we need to fly with the messenger of the gods. You know, if we're going to do that correctly, we have to be timely in our delivery, right? That's the whole thing about holding that balance. We don't want to come too early. We don't want to be too late. So this noble virtue given to us, first of all, by the Buddha, right? This is part of this eightfold path, asks us to avoid all that brings unrest and haste into life. So we're not to hurry, and we don't want to get swamped by any external trivialities of life. But we don't want to be a slacker either, right? So we got to know that everything happens in its divine right time when we live in accordance with nature and spirit. When we can look on life as a means of working towards higher development. And then when we're doing that, we can really put that into our will. And then we will always be in the right place at the right time to bring meaning and purpose to our life. So, yeah. Now let's tune into, let's take those energies and tune in here and work with the Gospel of Matthew. I think it's chapter 26, where he talks about what happens on Holy Wednesday, which is really the turning point in the Holy Week. We see this, that towards evening, this scene is unfolding in the quiet country town of Bethany. So this is beyond the Mount of Olives, where not too long ago, the scene of the rising of Lazarus had taken place, right? That event that really kind of started everything, right? It really drew a lot of attention from the people, from the authorities. And Lazarus was among the disciples of Christ, and they were gathered around his table. They were at his house. And we know about Lazarus. If we've studied a little bit of anthroposophy, he who earned the title John, the one described as resting on the heart of Jesus the next evening at the Last Supper, the one whom Jesus loved. Now we also have to see here Martha and Mary Magdalene, who are the sisters of Lazarus John. So right, we're in their family home, and they've gathered there with the disciples. So in the life of each of these three, there has been an event which brought about a radical transformation. For Lazarus, it was the awakening from the grave and the coming in of new ego forces. And for Mary Magdalene, it was the freeing and the purifying of her astral body. And Martha, people don't talk about her as much, but she has a really interesting story too. She's said to be the woman who was healed of the issue of blood. And so through the Christ, her etheric formative forces were restored. And so they all sit at this table with the disciples. And then Mary anoints the feet of Christ with precious spikenard ointment, wiping his feet with her hair. Now, spikenard it's an ancient sacred oil. And for thousands of years, it's been used as a spiritual tool to assist in self-reflection and clarity for centuries. It's been this evocation of the perfume of the lost Garden of Eden. I read that on the Spikenard website today. That it's an invocation or an evocation of the perfume of the lost Garden of Eden. So it's sacred to the planet Venus and the honeybees, of course, and associated with the crown chakra. And I've heard tell, I have not experienced it myself, but they also call it nard, and that this oil has a really strong, warm, musky tone, notes to it, similar to the aroma of healthy earth. So this oil inspires deeds and harmonizes the relationship between heaven and earth. You could just picture that. I'll just take a little whiff of my lily here. So in St. John's Gospel, he says, he talks about it specifically, that it filled the whole house with this perfume. So, we have to remember that Mary Magdalene performed a similar act. It was about 1.5 years previously, after her healing release, when no one would cast the first stone. But what does this act of anointing signify now? It is a sacramental act, the fulfillment of the last anointing, which is a sacrament that the priest does right before someone passes and crosses the threshold. But this solemn stillness is suddenly broken by the jealousy, that's my interpretation, the jealousy of the disciples, and especially of a figure who forms a complete contrast to Mary Magdalene. When Judas sees the deed of Mary, he loses it. He totally loses it. He says, oh, that precious money, we could have got money for this that you squandered, and we could have given it to the poor. He really lets this be the final impetus to his act of betrayal. Because he in his mind, he's waited a long time. He's been patient. He thinks, in the hopes that Jesus would come forth politically, right, to lead an earthly political revolution. But that was not the mission. So, yeah, interestingly enough, both Judas and Mary Magdalene are typical Mercury people. They're creative, they're active, they're temperamental. One of the virtues of their nature is that something's always happening around them. Mary Magdalene, however, has been able to train her restlessness. She transforms it into devotion, into peace, and the capacity for love. This intense devotion allows her to be the first to meet and behold the risen Christ. And so, like we said, Judas pretends to want something for the poor, but, however good and commendable social activity may be, in his case, it's only a self-deception. The underlying motive is not a genuine social impulse, but his own inner restlessness. It's this yielding to an unconscious, an unacknowledged weakness, which comes from fear. So much comes from fear, doesn't it? And this leads to his betrayal and his own dark fate. Such a soul as his could not show devotion, and above all, it cannot love. So I really take to heart this idea that a restless person is not capable of love, because love is possible only when the soul has found peace. So we see in these two diverse figures, two roads that separate, right? Like a crossroads. One leads to love of Christ, and the other into tragedy and suicide. Now, Martha, she's an interesting case. I have a friend named Martha, so I think about this individuality. She's the other sister of Lazarus, and she's sort of a transition between these two. Martha, she's constantly active, but her service and devotion are genuine. She is serving. But the unrest which was healed in her body has remained in her soul. She's not satisfied. She hasn't found that peace. So these mercurial characters of Holy Wednesday really show us the crossroads which we must face before we can hope to be admitted to the sphere of Maundy, Thursday, and the mystery of the sacrament. Now, Judas, he's a man without ritual, so he has no connection to this idea of sacrament. He, like I said, he loses control, when he comes into the sphere of true ceremonial worship. And Mary Magdalene, she is a sacramental soul, most certainly. And Martha, she has not quite found her contentment yet. She's still a striving individual. And so we can think of Mercury, right, who was the Greco-Roman god of both healing, but also he's also thought of the god of merchants and thieves. So this idea of the money piece, right? So now this being comes now also into the orbit of the Christ Son. So the scene in the house of Lazarus and Mary and Martha shows how Mercury, the god of healing, can himself be healed by the Son-imbued Christ impulse. Yeah, love these pictures. So powerful. So I'm going to ask everyone to continue to hold this story for a few minutes. Normally we would go into the breakout rooms now and talk about some of this, but let's just hold it for a minute because our dear friend Marianne Fieber is going to bring us the thought seed for today. And she has to leave right at 10:30, so we can switch the order around a little bit and have Marianne come on and give us some thoughts around this imagination.
So now, is that what you're wanting, Hazel? Okay.
Does that work?
Sure. Sure. So yes, I was thinking about this and I want to invite everybody to, I know the color of today is yellow, but I want you all to imagine green light, green, the color of love, shining brightly from your heart. And really imagine your heart filled with this green, loving light. And sending that green, loving light down into the earth, connecting with all that lives in the earth, the power of the earth. And the green, loving light again, holding that place in the earth, but then sending that green light up through your crown up into the starry heavens. And so we stand in this green pillar of loving light. And then spread your imagination, this crossroads of your heart, in a way, this crossroads, the green light stretching to the periphery, infusing your whole being in this crossing point, the vertical and the horizontal, in green, loving light. And this verse that has been shared reminded me of a song, and I will sing it as you continue to hold this green, loving light. And I'm sorry you're here. I'm at work and you're hearing my administrative assistant out there. I'm sorry. She has a very loud voice. Holding that green, loving light. When you let your love shine through your whole being. Everything is light. Everything is light. Everything is light. When you let your light shine through your whole being, everything is light. Everything is light. Everything is light. When I think light, my soul shines. When my soul shines, the earth is a star. When the earth is a star, then I am a true human being. And I invite you to send your loving light through the rest of this week, the rest of this day, through the rest of this year. Sorry about the distraction. I'm at a school.
Thank you, Marianne. Beautiful. Now, I mean, we have to be able to think light no matter what situation we're in. We can't be in the ashram. No, we have to be in the world. So that was beautiful, that song. I have chills. Thank you so much. That was perfect. Very good. So that should have made everybody like supercharged and ready for the work ahead, because we have the breakout groups now. And so we could take all of that loving light and we can bring it to that crossroads in our hearts, and we can ask ourselves, hey, these figures, these mercurial figures, each one has a certain quality. And, we all share those qualities. We are every human being has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? We can't say that we don't have a little bit of Judas in us, as well as Lazurus. So think about that. Just let that be inside of you for a moment, and then we're going to take that into the breakout rooms and just contemplate these things together. Just let it come off the top of your head. How you see Mary Magdalene in your everyday life. Are you a little bit like Martha? Have you ever felt restless like Judas and wanting to lash out? And what part of your higher self wants to be reborn? So does that make sense? So Lisa is going to help us now to go into the breakouts. We're still reverberating with that beautiful song.
Ready. Okay, to be continued.
Well, you can continue, Linda, where you were.
Whether Lazurus was in a 3-day initiation, and he was called forth by Jesus, by the Christ, from his initiation. That was not that perhaps people thought he had died, but that he hadn't really. Can someone help me out here?
Well, to me, it is, he's the first one to do this new Christian mystery. The ancient mysteries, they didn't die. They just left their etheric and physical bodies and went into the astral world to receive information from the Hierophant. And then if they could speak that information back to the Hierophant, then they had passed the initiation. But in this case, with Lazurus, welcome back, everybody. We're having a discussion about Lazurus. So it was different. He actually died. And Martha and Mary were so bereft. They were like, you could have come and saved him. But Jesus actually stayed away for not just 3 days, but 4 days, so that it could be really official that he was indeed across the threshold. Because this is what the Easter mystery is all about, isn't it? To overcome death. So he was the first one to take this Christian initiation. Does that make sense, Linda? And if anybody else wants to speak on that.
And before that, it wasn't as long as 3 days that initiates were.
3 days.
It had been 3 days previously, but it wasn't a total death, is what you're saying before Lazarus. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had not gotten that.
Yeah, we could do a whole weekend seminar. We could do a whole lifetime's worth of talking about Lazarus John and his many lives and his contribution to our evolution. It's quite an amazing individuality that we can know now as Christian Rosenkreuz, still working with us today. So I'm sorry, I don't know, I think it was because we did not mention the retrograde Mercury, which can fool around with our communication. Since we didn't mention that, we had to get the trickster. I did not say that the Mercury can be the trickster, and it's true. So I apologize for all of the tech difficulties, and I have no clue. So I don't know how to fix that, but hopefully Lisa and I can confer afterwards and make sure it doesn't happen tomorrow. But was anybody actually able to have any kind of conversation that they want to share, or insights or anything? Carolyn? You have to unmute, sweet.
It was just a little bit of a tiny interaction, which was really good to have. But thank you.
What'd you talk about? Anybody want to share?
I could share, Charlene. I think we could all three identify with Judas and Martha, and we didn't get to Lazarus or Mary Magdalene. So, but thank you.
It's a work in progress.
Yes.
Always. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's always good to just see, all the people we meet and all the characters and all the stories, and in the life of Christ, we can all relate to those aspects within ourselves, and it's good to recognize those traits so that we can either heighten them or bring some healing. That's part of the lesson.
In our group, we felt we had not enough time to do the whole, actually what the subject deserves.
Yes.
But what was interesting was that what we brought was what our prior thoughts and relationships to all three of these figures were. And it was interesting. Each was quite distinct and different. And we realized that, at least I realized, that there are many approaches to this, which will take the rest of the day, the rest of the week, or whatever. But some seeds were planted in our group, which I deeply appreciate.
It's all about those seeds. Yeah, we do. We have a short amount of time here, but yeah, it is a beautiful thing to make even these short connections. And we are over time now, but if people want to stay and speak a little longer, we can. Otherwise, I'll say the reversed Han verse to end us. So anyone have a few closing thoughts before I give that verse?
I do. I was sharing that I come out of a few months of reading books on Mary Magdalene, and maybe not everybody knows these sources. One is, because there's not so much in the gospel, right? There's places here and there, but one is the Catherine Emmerich, the seer of the 19th century, and it's taken down by Franz Brentano, contemporary of Steiner. And the other ones are three books by, what's her name? Estelle Isaacson, Through the Eyes of Mary Magdalene. So it's quite a, and they offer quite a beautiful perspective of the female figures, or the women, and their role around Christ, in the time of Christ.
Yeah, she's quite a study to have. So thank
Wow.
you for those references.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you
And-
put them in the chat, Barry?
I
The
can do that.
references?
I can do
Thank
that.
you.
Beautiful.
Of course, we have all of these characters in us, but the Magdalene, I take it is a title, like Christ.
Hmm.
It is a title.
And just like John is a title. Thank you. That's a good point. Yeah. The Magdalene, right? Like a priestess. Mhm.
The Judas.
Yeah. Right. Good. Well, thank you, friends, for another beautiful start to the day. I hope that you'll carry these messages into the rest of your time. And I'll close here with the reverse Han verse. So we can just sort of recall Marianne's beautiful song and that healing light, and how we're all part of it, and how it's just encircling the earth and bringing healing to all the Judases out there and all the restlessness that we all have. We can feel that I am a true human being, for the earth is a star. The earth is a star when my soul shines. My soul shines when I think light.
Mm. Mm.
Blessings, friends. Yay. Holy Wednesday. All right. Thank you.